This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard the latest propaganda, well, now the mainstream media is reporting that the Gulf Stream is ready to collapse as early as 2025. Isn't that convenient that we have an agenda called Agenda 2030 that recently, which I covered last year, was changed to Agenda 2025? And conveniently, at the same time, the Gulf Stream is going to collapse. Sounds like a plot of a movie, like The Day After Tomorrow. Oh, wait, it is the plot of many, many movies. And of course, they're telling everybody this because this is part of global enslavement. They're able to use movies to convince people that the climate stuff is real by making all these movies about massive climate events, just like they're able to convince people that aliens are real by making movie after movie without any evidence or facts to the existence of little beings from Mars and Uranus, when of course, in fact, that's demonic entities that they're really speaking of. But anyway, back to the Gulf Stream story. So I'm not sure where to start here, but how about this? The climate is being used as a major means of enslavement. Now, we just saw the world governments attempt to do that to everybody, and they watched the data and they saw how people reacted, and well, they're ready to do it again. But this time they're going to use the climate to do it. And let's start with Yuval. Remember Yuval? This is what Yuval had said about how there was something that occurred. I forget. I can't say what it is, of course, because I'll get distracted. But there was something that happened. I forget. People were supposedly kind of getting sick, but they weren't really getting sick. And we were able to shut the whole world down. So just imagine how we could shut the whole world down with some type of climate event.
It's not an extremely deadly virus. It's not the Black Death. And look what it's doing to the world. So now just try to think what will be the implications of a much bigger problem like climate change. Also, conceptually, it shows that, and here I completely agree with you, Rutger, that it shows you that you can change things on a massive scale. That, and again, you can stop all flights. You can lock down entire countries. You can actually do that. And life goes on in some way. And this, I would say, may make us more open to radical ideas about how to deal also with climate change.
So thanks, Yuval. There's a special place in hell waiting for you. And it's really amazing to me that these guys walk among us and talk like this and able to get away with this without citizens actually, first of all, asking where these people have the authority to make claims like we should shut airports down, we should do this stuff because of the name of climate. And then they just go, what? Oh, because scientists are telling us about the climate, but we don't see these power-hungry people who are trying to control every single part of our lives, who are taking away freedoms day by day, whether it's speech, whether it's bearing arms, also that they can have control over everybody. And they've been talking about it for quite some time. Now they call it the liberal world order. They used to call it the new world order, but I always call it the new world odor. So the Gulf Stream is ready to collapse. And of course, listen to some of these talking puppets who are talking about it. And they're thanking Hollywood, of course. They're so brain dead. They're thanking Hollywood. They're like, Hollywood definitely got this right. No, Hollywood programmed you into thinking that these things could happen. Weather technology and the capability of manipulating the weather is a real thing. But this whole notion of are all these world leaders getting together at the UN telling us that something needs to be done by 2025, then coming out with news stories about how the world is going to, well, the Gulf Stream is going to collapse as soon as 2025, and then listening to these people, oh, this is so scary. Oh, thank goodness Hollywood told us. And one of the guys even going as far as saying, I'm trying to figure out where we should all move to. Well, I think it'd be great. We can get all the liberals from all the countries and we could ship them somewhere because they're the ones who are causing all the problems. But take a look at this.
Could the Gulf Stream collapse? It's one of the possibilities laid out in a recent report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
The AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or the Gulf Stream system. Now, the Gulf Stream is really important because it carries all that excess heat from the equator and from the Caribbean, that area, and pushes it towards the poles. So it essentially is the mechanism in the oceans that rebalances the imbalance in heating from the poles to the equator. So it sends that heat north. It is responsible for transporting 20% of the heat on Earth from the equator towards the poles. So imagine if that system breaks down. Well, it's breaking down. The system has slowed down considerably since 1950. And, just a few years ago, the IPCC was saying, well, it's probably going to be hundreds of years, probably, before this conveyor belt collapses.
But now, scientists say that unthinkable possibility may now happen, and sooner than expected.
Now they're saying there's only medium confidence that it won't collapse, possibly in our lifetimes. So there is a chance that it could, and there's a study that just came out a few days ago saying, hey, it may not be hundreds of years. We're seeing the warning signs of instability in the Gulf Stream system, and it is possible that we are, in fact, headed for collapse. So imagine 20% of the heat now not knowing how to get from the equator to the poles. That throws weather systems completely off kilter. It will cause droughts in places that haven't been experiencing droughts. It'll make droughts in places that are having it already much worse. It'll cause places to get colder in the northern hemisphere, believe it or not. It's just going to throw everything completely off kilter. So this is a big impact event if it were to happen.
The Gulf Stream's degradation is a result of human-caused climate change from burning fossil fuel.
If we keep putting the pedal to the metal on burning fossil fuels, that is something that will eventually happen.
Hollywood 2004 and the year's big blockbuster, The Day After Tomorrow, throws us into a frightening fictional world where climate change has upended ocean currents, plunging global temperatures into chaos. Fast forward to today, and scientists now fear that devastating ocean current collapse could hit within 2 years.
What about the North Atlantic current? What about it? The current has changed.
Are you suggesting these weather anomalies are going to continue?
Not just continue, get worse. I think we're on the verge of a major climate shift.
Tornadoes, tidal waves, superstorms.
It's gonna get really, really bad. You're not gonna be able to survive it.
If Hollywood's taught us anything, it's that changes in Atlantic Ocean currents are a really, really big deal. Now, research out of Copenhagen suggests it could be happening.
Research has suggested that melting of the ice on Greenland might slow down the AMOC over the coming decades and century. A recent paper that just came out has suggested that this slowdown might happen much sooner.
The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, is like a complex deep-sea conveyor belt, transporting warm, salty water from the tropics to the North Atlantic and sending colder water south along the ocean floor. The current is one of our most vulnerable tipping points when it comes to climate change, meaning if it were to stop abruptly and irreversibly, we could be looking at a Dennis Quaid-level catastrophe.
Evacuate everyone south of that line. What about the people in the north? I'm afraid it's too late for them.
We're still a long way from that. Perhaps the biggest problem scientifically with The Day After Tomorrow is the rate at which everything got cold. So even if the AMOC were to completely stop tomorrow, we wouldn't expect to see snow blanketing Europe and North America. What we'll expect to see is the climate of North America and Europe changing drastically.
Researchers warning at the current rate of rising global temperatures and melting ice caps, the AMOC could collapse as soon as 2025, but no later than 2095.
It's really hard to know exactly how fast this might happen or how soon it might start. What we do know is that a warming world is consistent with the AMOC slowing down or shutting down. The more we do and the faster we do it, the better the future will be.
For years, we operated under the belief that we could continue consuming our planet's natural resources without consequence. We were wrong.
We need Dennis Quaid to save us. I mean, it's a good thing 2025 isn't too far away, right?
Yeah.
2025? Yeah.
Wait, what year is it this year?
Yeah, exactly.
2022.
It's alarmingly close. It's alarmingly close.
Hang on.
But this has happened. Science says this has happened 12,000 years ago when rapid glacier melt actually shut down the AMOC, and temperatures within Europe were fluctuating between 10 and 15 degrees. So scary stuff.
Right, so like an ice age situation. Yeah, I think it's not a great sign when the scientist in your package is saying, well, it won't quite be like a Hollywood disaster film.
Yeah. But it's going to be bad.
It'll be bad, but it won't look like that.
Well, we need to start working where we're going to live. And I was trying to work out today what the best country is to move to deal with all of this. And I think New Zealand, maybe.
Why New Zealand?
Well, I think it's already a bit cold. It's far away. People don't go there that much.
Far away.
I feel like you're making a different point about where you want to live now.
Well, no, but I think Europe seems like it's off the table.
Yeah.
I think it comes up every time there's a climate, chat like this. It's Tasmania is the place that it should go. Not necessarily where
I was down there for Dark Mofo and had a great time.
Okay.
So the Gulf Stream system could collapse as soon as 2025, a new study suggests. The shutting down of the vital ocean currents called the Atlantic, meridional, overturning circulation by scientists would bring catastrophic climate impact. I always love how they have words that like nobody could pronounce. So then it just subconsciously makes you, like the regular person, I don't think like that. But if you can't pronounce the words, you're like, oh man, I'm not smart enough. I don't know what they're talking about. Because they use words that nobody knows what they mean. Nobody learned them in school to make it sound like they're smarter than they are so that you can't ask questions, of course, about the climate or anything else. So they just make stuff up as they go. And then they go, oh, well, you don't really understand it. No, we understand it. We understand sick, psychopathic human beings' love and obsession with controlling other people's lives. Okay? And not just their love and obsession with money, with total control. So AMOC, which is what I just said, the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, the AMOC was already known to be at its weakest in 1,600 years. Oh, really? According to who? Owing to global heating, and researchers spotted warning signs of a tipping point in 2021. The new analysis estimates a timescale for the collapse of between 2025 and 2095. Oh, okay. That's a pretty big window there. With a central estimate of 2050 if global carbon emissions are not reduced. So you heard Yuval talk about climate change, right? And people still don't realize this. Well, global carbon emissions being reduced. And they started thinking, oh, well, we'll switch to electric vehicles. Oh, okay. So then you'll give the government control over where you can go, right? Oh, then we'll switch our thermostats and we'll switch gas and all that stuff. And eventually they're going to tell you that none of those things are good enough. And then you're going to realize that you're a prisoner in your own home, right? This is called global imprisonment. So when you hear all these stories about slavery and all that stuff that they love to bring up and talk about skin colors in other countries and slavery, even though slavery came full circle, it started with certain people. And I mean, it's really unbelievable, the stuff that they spew out of their mouths to keep people under mind control. They love to talk about slavery, but yet people think that they're actually free at the moment, and they don't realize how good it even is right now. But the whole goal, again, people's obsession with slavery and controlling people, right? We hear about it. You think it's just because they wanted somebody to do some work for them? They wanted to control people. They're psychopaths. Well, this is what it is, really, right? And this is going to get to a point where you're not allowed to leave your home. And if you don't believe me, just think of what just occurred where you weren't allowed to leave your home. And listen to Yuval talking about how great that was. How great that they could shut the whole world down with the snap of their fingers if they want to. And they say, life goes on. It might not be as fun, but it'll go on because you'll be lucky that we let you live. That's pretty much what he's saying. Well, you'll be lucky if we let you live. You should be thankful that you're even allowed to roam your home and not be in a cell, when these people should all be in cells if they're lucky. Because, I'll leave it at that. So the new analysis estimates a timescale, again, 2050. Evidence from past collapses indicates changes of temperature of 10 degrees Celsius in a few decades, although these occurred during ice ages. So that's interesting that we're talking, that we're going to bring up ice ages, but they don't want to mention the fact that they used to tell us that we were having an ice age was coming. I think day after tomorrow even is about an ice age. Then, of course, they switched to heating because it's easier for them with their technology to just convince people that it's extra hot, even though temperatures are normal everywhere, except, of course, for the places that they point out, like Death Valley, where it's just a little bit hotter than normal. And again, it is called Death Valley, but we're supposed to believe it's climate change when it's called, Death Valley. Oh, yeah. And it's called Death Valley because things go there to die because it's so hot and there's, not really much water. So, I don't know if climate change is really affecting there, or Texas, places where it's always hot. So they say other scientists said the assumptions about how a tipping point would play out and uncertainties in the underlying data are too large for a reliable estimate of the timing of the tipping point. Well, I'll give you a reliable estimate. World leaders get together and they meet, and they say we have an agenda called Agenda 2030. Then they tell us we need to ramp it up to 2025. Why? Because they're seeing so much pushback from the last thing that they did that they're worried that there could be an overthrow of all of them. So they decided to speed it up by 5 years. So I would say that we should base our estimate not on whatever this bizarre, bogus science is that they're telling us, based off of the words coming out of the mouths of people who are not elected to be put in these positions like the United Nations, who put themselves there, who are telling us that they're going to dictate our lives and make our lives a living hell, which they already just tried to do. So they go on to say, but all said the prospect of an AMOC collapse was extremely concerning and should spur rapid cuts in carbon emissions. I mean, When you listen to the clip that I just played you know, from that news, those people, the Project or whatever they're called, talking about it, it's just amazing. Like, they can just come out with an article like this and people just automatically like, oh yeah, oh, that's real. And then of course they point fingers at us and like, you can't believe what you read on the internet. You can't believe a word that comes out of their mouths. Everything is tied to an agenda, and you can even catch them in all of these things saying it. I've shown over the years how many times they tell you, this is a perfect example. They told us Agenda 2030 for about 20 years. Everybody knows what the goals are in Agenda 2030. Now we're seeing them all getting ramped up, starting with the thing that just occurred. Then they tell us it has to go to 2025. Then stories like this come out. Then stories about great extinctions of humanity come out, and nobody connects the dots. Pretty amazing. And these people wear suits and talk as if they're educated because, like, well, I went to this school. Oh, so you were programmed here. And you were programmed where? Oh, you were programmed at Harvard? Oh, that's great. Likely a government agent. But, I mean, completely brain dead by all counts. So research in 2022 showed 5 dangerous tipping points may have already have passed due to the 1.1 C of global heating to date, including the shutdown of AMOC, the collapse of Greenland's ice cap, and an abrupt melting of carbon-rich permafrost. The new study published in the journal Nature Communications used sea surface temperature data stretching back to 1870 as a proxy for the... And that's the thing, they just throw this stuff out there. So a common person reads this and they're like, well, I don't know what the freaking surface temperature of the water was in 1870, so I guess they're right. They don't think that these people can make up intricate webs of lies and just spew stuff out of their rectums to convince people that all this stuff is going on. Then they're outside and like, oh, it is extra hot today. And you're like, well, it's 90 degrees. Has it never been 90 degrees, in North Carolina before? Oh, it has been. So what's the big deal? What's the problem? Oh, it's only 75 degrees, in New York. Is anyone concerned that it's kind of cool for July in New York? Of course not, because that doesn't get mentioned. So the more they beat it into people's heads, then they actually start believing that this is actually going on. And I'm not saying they don't manipulate the weather. Obviously, I've exposed that time and time again, from Operation Popeye to all these other things that they do to manipulate the weather, the things they have the ability to do with HAARP and CERN, etc. But they just keep spewing stuff like data stretching back to 1870 about the proxy for the change of strength of AMOC currents over time and the surface temperature of the water. Well, nobody knows what that means because the people who wrote it don't even know what it means. But they just make it go, oh, well, you don't know what that means, so don't even ask questions. Just let us tell you. Let us tell you that you need to stay in your home and carbon emissions are a problem, and that means, because carbon, you breathe, right? Nobody seems to be thinking. And then nobody thinks that these people are wicked. Has anybody looked around at what they've been doing to us? How they've turned humanity on one another based on political affiliation? How they've taken free speech away? How they're targeting children? Has anyone looked at this stuff? And we're supposed to believe these people, and then how they constantly shove down our throats that we have to trust the science, and then anybody who actually questioned the science was completely right, was, removed all over the internet. I mean, it's insanity. It's utter insanity. We're living amongst the brain dead if they can't see what they're doing. So, Agenda 2025, Yuval has even made it clear in his quotes, as many of these people have, how great it'll be when we're able to shut the whole world down, because he's telling you right there what this is all about. Right? Well, we have to do something about climate change. How often do we hear this? You think they're talking about these lunatics who are sitting in the middle of the highway protesting oil, being willing to get punched in the face, thinking that they're actually making a difference? He's not talking about that being the change. He's talking about being able to shut the world down. And we just saw the first trial run of that. That's what the plan is with the climate. You ready for that? You willing to accept that? People better stand up and fight back. And that's one of the reasons that I can't talk. I mean, these right-wing pundits don't expose this type of stuff. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I mean, they don't talk about these things. And even the conservatives in Congress, they're like, oh, it's a climate cult. And like, yeah, there's a problem with the climate, but they're a little extreme. They're leading people towards this. The whole world government, the Republicans are going to do the same thing that the liberals are going to do. They're just doing it at different, different extremes. They're trying to pretend like they're not pushing it down your throat, but they're on board with it. You don't hear any of them call it fake. You don't hear any of them talk about the carbon footprint and control and what this is really about and how all these people who, conveniently all go to the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg meetings and the Bohemian Grove, and they all come out and they talk about the climate. We don't understand. We need to, stop the carbon emissions. It's okay if we're all locked inside for the rest of our lives. That's not imprisonment. You're being crazy. You're a lunatic if you think that's imprisonment, just like you were a lunatic if you thought wearing a mask was bad. I mean, it's all insanity. That's why it constantly gets censored. It's easy to see what they're doing. But, you're not going to see that from the Daily Wire or any of these right-wing guys. They might touch on it here and there, but they'll still be promoted because they'll keep you in the left-right paradigm. And that being said, please make sure you subscribe to my backup channels. If you want to become a Patreon as well, it's another way you could support this channel's work. Obviously, I'll probably be off this channel in a month or two, so just be ready and sub to the other channels. I thank everyone for being here. God bless all of you and your families.